repatriation process for victims of that deadly bus crash in Limpopo, due to begin soon. This emerging at a site visit to the Mmamatlakala Bridge by President Cyril Ramaphosa and the Botswanan President Mokgweetsi Masisi. 45 people killed 2 weeks ago when the bus veered off the bridge and plunged into an embankment. Just 6 bodies have so far been positively identified. Karinda Jagmohan was at the meeting of the two presidents today. She joins us now. Karinda, good afternoon to you. What did the presidents find on the scene of this terrible crash?
Good afternoon. While the presidents both looking down at the debris of the crash today, they started this morning in Limpopo in the municipal chambers, where they had an internal briefing looking essentially at the various reports by officials in Limpopo. So these are especially reports by investigators who are looking into the crash and looking as well as the interim reports that might ascertain what has caused this crash. We also spoke to the transport minister, who spoke about those interim investigations and saying that one of the investigators mentioning that this could be human factor, because she pointed out the signs on the road and the fact that the road is roadworthy. Essentially, the road is in a good condition, and she believes that ultimately it may have been human factor that would have led to this crash. But going forward, both the heads of state meeting today, after getting that internal briefing, they came to the bridge where they looked at how this bus carrying 46 people, including the driver, plunged off the bridge, crashing into the embankment. It caught fire and ultimately 45 people perished in that crash. We know the sole survivor is 8-year-old Atlang Siako. Going forward, when briefing the media in a quick doorstop at the site of the crash, President Cyril Ramaphosa speaking about the relationship between South Africa and Botswana and pointing out to the accident that claimed the life of President Samora Machel, essentially going forward to say that at that time, during the apartheid regime, there wasn't communication between the countries about the death of the president, and saying that much has changed now, just echoing the sentiments of a good relationship between the two countries when it comes to this particular crash, saying that South Africa has certainly supported Botswana through this. I'll give you details of that, but take a listen to what President Ramaphosa had to say.
Reflecting how different the responses has been to these two horrific accidents. The one with President Machel was during the apartheid era. There was just no sympathy, compassion then that we could discern. It was a mystery, there was controversy, and there was no transparency. This time round, we have an accident, a horrible accident that has occurred involving Botswana. But no sooner than it occurred, I called President Masisi and informed him that our team, consisting of our provincial officials from government, from the premier down to the low officials, police and immediate responders, were immediately on the scene. And we were able to beam information not only to the world but also to the government of Botswana and to inform them what was happening. That speaks volumes about the relationship between the two countries, which is underpinned by compassion, humanness, cooperation, and transparency. We were able to work with the government of Botswana in its various iterations. And today we've reflected on that and are grateful that we live in a liberated South Africa, as President Masisi was saying, where the good relations become the oil and the grease that enables us to work well without any friction, without any doubt, without any suspicion.
So lots of sentiments being shared about the relationship between Botswana and South Africa, but this is going to have to be echoed in the days to come when we consider the repatriation process, because as more bodies are being identified, and you've just mentioned that 6 bodies now are positively identified through tissue sampling and DNA evidence, the repatriation process needs to begin. So 6 families, we understand, will now come to South Africa to start this. But who would fund this? We ask questions to the officials officials, and ultimately they said that South Africa's RAF and a similar entity that Botswana has will work together to discuss the funding of this as well. According to the RAF Act, it does say that any person, no matter which country you're from, who has been involved and injured in an accident in South Africa would be assisted by the RAF under certain measures, of course, and with certain exceptions. But here, of course, when we look at 45 people having been killed in this accident, many of them breadwinners for their families, now South Africa and Botswana are looking at how they can actually fund this process going forward, the recovery process going forward together. But President Masisi also echoed these sentiments of working together. Take a listen to what he had to say.
President Ramaphosa was saying, to the times when South Africa was under an oppressive, hostile, white minority racist regime, the response that we get this time speaks to the values as encapsulated in the ideals of a free South Africa led by President Ramaphosa. We applaud it. It's filled with every attribute of humanity, every attribute consistent with our values in Botswana. And more than anything else, it's the most profound thanks and expression of gratitude that we saw in the way in which South Africans responded, led by the government, to the support we gave to South Africans during their time was most need, when they were under the knee of the Boer apartheid ruler.
Well, Karinda Jagmohan for that live report. Thank you very much indeed. Important developments, of course. They're important to remember the people who died. Karinda, thank you. In